Derek Barnes and Gordon T.
There we go. So this is everyone who's watching. We want to thank the students and staff from our different schools who put together this recording of Derek's book, his latest title, I Am Every Good Thing. And after Stephanie shows this, then Tracy, we'll see if Tracy's on, and then Derek, we can have you guys talk about the book and also just your writing career.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think Steph is...
It is indeed an honor.
Having a little technical difficulty on this end.
Do you want Mark? I don't know if Mark's on. He could try to play his. Sorry, Derek.
All right.
Zoom Landia. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
And a pleasure to bring to you the book by Derek Barnes and Gordon C. James. I Am Every Good Thing. The book is dedicated to Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, E.J. Bradford, Jordan Edwards, Michael Brown, Jordan Davis, and Julian Mallory. It's also dedicated to the son, Gabriel, and all little brothers like him.
I am a non-stop ball of energy, powerful and full of life. I am a go-getter, a difference maker, a leader.
I am very good thing that makes the world go round, like gravity, or the glow of moonbeams over a field of brand new snow. I am good to the core, like a center of a cinnamon roll. Yeah, that's good.
I am skateboard tricks, scrape knees and elbows. But you know what? I am right back on my feet again.
I am one eye open, one eye closed, peeking through a microscope, glazing through a telescope, checking out the spaces around me, and plotting one of those far-off places I have yet to go, but will.
I am a gentleman and a scholar. I am polite, like, yes ma'am, yes sir. Helping my grandmother cross the street and saying bless you when a stranger has to sneeze.
I am a cool breeze, a perfect paper airplane that glides for blocks, for miles, forever.
I am a roaring flame of creativity. I am a lightning round of questions and a star-filled sky of solutions. I am an explorer, planting a flag on every square foot of this planet where I belong. I am a sponge, soaking up information, knowledge, and wisdom. I want it all, and I am all ears.
I am a Saturday mornings in the summertime. I am 2 bounces and a front flip of the diving board. I am hilarious. I am the life of the party. I am that smile forming on your face right now.
I'm the boom bap, boom boom bap. When the bass line thumps and the kick drum jumps, I'm the perfect beat, the perfect rhyme, keeping everything on point and always on time. But you already knew that the boom
bam, the boom boom bam.
I'm a grand slam, bases fully loaded. I'm a nasty two-handed dunk holding on to the rim, just to remind you that I'm still the man. Believe that.
I am the undisciplined champion. I am a highway reel integration. I am the celebration, the applause, and the standing ovation. I am victory.
I am a brother, a son, a nephew, a favorite cousin, a grandson. I am a friend. I am real.
I am tight hugs, a hand to hold, a shoulder to cry on. If you have to, I hope you never have to. I am here.
Although I am something like a superhero, every now and then I am afraid. I am not what they might call me, and I will not answer to any name. That is not my own. I am what I say I am.
I am the sound and the voice.
When the mighty tree falls, I am waves crashing gently on the shore. I am a force of nature, a miracle, a blessing. I am brave. I am hope. I am my ancestors' wildest dream. I'm worthy of success, of respect, of safety, of kindness, of happiness.
And without a shadow of doubt, I am worthy to be loved. Everyone say with me, I am worthy to be loved.
Very much, man. Hearing those voices, especially the brother that was singing over the one page, man, he did an excellent job. They all did an excellent job.
Yeah,
You know,
Mr. Al Washington, he's worked with our schools for, I think he's coming up on 30 years, and he has a shared love of Stevie Wonder, which I know you love Stevie Wonder.
Oh man,
So,
yeah, it's crazy about Steve.
Mr. Washington is quite a musician, and he
Appreciate it.
is here today, so maybe a little later he can check in with you, but I'll let
Yes, thank you, Mr. Washington. Love you, man. Appreciate you, man. I'm not one of those artists. You know, when your work is translated or read back or music is done by someone else, you know, people get angry because maybe it's not interpreted or, you know, performed the right way. But, you know, we all have different life experiences. We all come from different places. And, you know, those words that I write and words that you may read out of every single book, they are meant to be, you know, interpreted in their own way by, you know, the world. And it's just a blessing that anyone will want to share your work and read it. So I really appreciate y'all sharing that with me. I love it. So my name is Derek Barnes, and I am a children's book author. I haven't always felt comfortable saying that. When I wasn't able to really be able to take care of my family with these words, but you know, the truth is I've been writing my whole life. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. Raised in a single parent household. My mother's this little country girl from Clarksdale, Mississippi. And when she was a kid, they moved up to Kansas City, Missouri. And she raised me and my elder brother, Anthony. He's 7 years older than I am. And he and I are like polar opposites. I'm real laid back, and the guy sitting off in the corner with jeans and Chuck Taylor's on, and he's like tailored suits and cigars, and he actually works for a wine company. So, but I love him to death. He means the world to me. You know, my mother worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, and so it was just us at home a lot of the times. And he really took care of me. He made sure I ate. You know, he made sure I was safe. And he was kind of like a surrogate father, kind of, even though he was 7 years older than I am. But my love for reading came from Saturday mornings. My mother, Saturday would be the only day she would be off. And she would take me to the library, which is like maybe 6 blocks away from our house. I was 4 years old. She would put me in a wagon and pull me all the way to the library. We would fill that thing up, fill it up. And I'd get back home and I would read every single book, spend the whole weekend reading those books. I used to take a flashlight and tie a shoestring around that thing and hang it up in the closet. And I would put pillows in my closet. And I was turn that flashlight on. I would sit in that closet and read, man. And that's why I fell in love with different characters. I like to read a lot of nonfiction when I was growing up, and I love to read poetry, even at an early age. I didn't start writing until I was in the 5th grade. I was 10 years old. And my teacher's name was Miss Shelby. There's some teachers you just never forget. Miss Shelby and Mrs. Rogers, who was my high school teacher. I will get to her later. But Miss Shelby introduced me to all the amazing writers in a period called the Harlem Renaissance. This was a period in the 1920s, and after like maybe the second great, migration of when Black people moved from the South to the North. So after the Civil War and Reconstruction, Black people were not welcome in a lot of places down South, which is why you have so many of us who migrated up to St. Louis and Chicago and Detroit and in New York. Well, Harlem was like this big mecca. And there were so many great playwrights, writers, poets, and musicians. And one of the poets that I fell in love with was one of my homeboys. He's from Missouri. We're from the same state. And his name is Langston Hughes. And Miss Shelby shared his work with me, and I fell in love with every poem, every short story, every essay. And it was through him that I learned character dialogue. When I wasn't even writing short stories yet, but through him I learned through a short story collection called Jesse B. Simple, which is a guy down on his luck in the 1920s. He didn't have a woman, he didn't have a job, but he found a way to make ends meet. And I read that. I read that when I was 10, 11, and I started writing. And I wrote my first short story in the 5th grade with Miss Shelby. And I was so shy, but she allowed us to get up and read in front of everybody. And at that time, the only thing I was writing was raps. I'm a huge hip hop fan. So like everything from the golden era, which is, I guess, 86 to maybe 96. And so I'm a big fan of Run DMC, LL Cool J, Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD, Public Enemy. So that was the only literature I was really into at the time until Miss Shelby. So I wrote a story about these dogs traveling across the country looking for this magic bone. And I shared it with my best friend, TJ. TJ was my best friend at the time. He and I used to rap together. His name was Tricky T and my name was Dangerous D. Wasn't nothing dangerous about me, but just, it sounded cool. So I shared my short story with him. He read it and he looked at me. He was like, man, this is the dumbest thing I ever read before, man. You gonna get up and read this? I was like, yeah, man. So I got up, shy little Derek, and they loved it. They were laughing at the funny parts. They thought the action scenes were really exciting. And I've been writing ever since. I was 10. I'm 45 now. So I've been writing a long time, man. And I started writing more poetry. I started writing more songs. I started writing more short stories, obviously. When I went to college, which, Jackson State University, a historically Black college in Jackson, Mississippi, which is where my family's from. They're from Clarksdale. They're from the Delta. And I always wanted to go to Jackson State. Went there, majored in marketing. And I did spoken word, which is a performance type of poetry. I did that on the weekends, but I also got my first paid writing job. I worked for the school newspaper, the Blue and White Flash, and I did a advice column. People would send me emails to, and I would answer questions about relationships. The name of the article, the column was Brown Sugar. Everybody called me Hershey Brown in college, so it was Brown Sugar. It was, you guys don't know, but it used to be a very popular column called Dear Abby. So I was kind of a cross between Dear Abby and I'm about to show my age, Billy D. Williams. If they had a column, ask your mom and let me tell you who Billy D. Williams is. But it was very successful, and we won awards. We won for the best HBCU newspaper 2 years in a row, in '95 and in '96. And I would like to believe it was because of Brown Sugar, you know. And that was my first paid writing job, you know. I see Tracy's coming on.
Yeah, Tracy's coming on it. And I got you beat by a few years. I know who Billy D is.
All right.
So, yeah, I'll welcome Tracy. We're so happy to have you here with us. I was telling Derek about all your wonderful years of service with JCCS, and Derek was just talking about his different writing experiences growing up, and I'll let you say hi, and you guys, Derek, you can definitely continue. You got some great insights on how your writing developed here.
Okay.
Well, welcome, and sorry for the tardiness. I was trying to get in. We had technical difficulties, obviously, but all I heard was HBCU with Billy D. Williams.
All right. Cool.
But again, I'd like to welcome you to the San Diego County Office of Education, and we are the juvenile community schools. And so it's been an honor to be able to read the book with our students and to have you this afternoon. And so again, I don't know what you covered thus far, but I'd like to hear more about what inspired you to write this book.
Yeah, I was just talking about my, talking about the genesis of my career and where I came from and how it came to be. I was, I left off, I skipped, I went from 5th grade to college, but I've got to talk about Mrs. Rogers. She was my freshman English teacher, and she was my creative writing teacher when I was a senior in high school. And I tell you, it's so important, and I always think about this when I go out and do school visits, that I try to be as positive as I possibly can to every child that I meet, because sometimes you might be the only positive interaction with that child. You know, you think about that as a teacher or anybody that works with young people, you know. So, man, Mrs. Rogers was so sweet to me, man. She reminded me of one of my favorite poets, Gwendolyn Brooks. And my school, I went to Southeast High School. It was smack there in the middle of the hood, right in Kansas City, Missouri. But she was so elegant, beautiful chocolate skin. She was so nice to me. I swear everything I wrote was Pulitzer worthy, you know. And I know it was horrible at the time, but she was so encouraging, and I would never forget her. You know, by the time I had her in my senior year, I feel like my writing, you know, had improved. And I'll never forget Ms. Rogers. So again, I went off to Jackson State University and my first paid writing job for the school newspaper. And I graduated from college in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in marketing, and came back to my hometown, Kansas City, Missouri. And I was hired at Hallmark Cards, the greeting card giant. I was the first black man hired to write copy for them in the history of the company. They had been in business over 100 years. They never hired a black man to write copy before. So it was a huge honor for me.
That is so awesome. Derek, we have some of the most vulnerable children in San Diego County in our programs, but they're the most talented and intelligent students that I have met.
Yeah.
And they don't have the opportunity to display their talents. What words of encouragement would you give to our students?
Man, you know, I always try to share my background, you know, like I said, coming from a single parent household. My mother barely had a high school diploma, but she worked, and she was just a great caregiver, a great provider. She was so positive, loving, you know, and we didn't have much. And, but she always encouraged me to write and to read, and she encouraged me, and she understood that in order for us to make it out of the environment that we were in, that the only way I was going to be able to do that was with education. And so I talk to my wife all the time. We have 4 sons, and they work hard, but they don't work as hard as my brother and I work.
Right.
Because of where I come from and how hard we had it and how hard I saw my mother work all the time. And I wanted to get off of 54th in college, man. I wanted to get out of that environment. I knew that the world was so much bigger than Prospect and Truce was some of the main thoroughways. I knew the world was much bigger than that. And, reading helped me to see that. I saw worlds outside of Kansas City. I saw what New York was like, Los Angeles, Europe, Africa. And a lot of that, came from reading, man. And really, I've just never given up. I just never give it up. Like I said, I'm 45 right now. My writing career didn't take off to 2018. I had written a ton of books, by the time Crown came out, which is this picture book right here. I don't know if you guys have read this, Crown, an Ode to the Fresh Cut. This was my 9th book. And I really wasn't making any money before this book came out. I was considering giving up and not writing anymore. But I had 4 sons looking at me and checking out my work ethic. I had a wife that was watching me. I had a wife that, believed in me. And I did not give up. I did the exact opposite. I ramped it up, Between 2011 and 2016, I wrote like 35 books. I wrote novels, picture books. These are books nobody wanted. I could barely rub 2 nickels together. I'm staying up to 2, 3 o'clock. I'm staying up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning working on books that nobody wanted. But I've always said, I know what it's like to fail. I know what it's like to not win. So I never was afraid of that. You have to put it out there. You got to put that kind of energy in there that your world can change, and a lot of it can be dictated on how much energy you put into making your life different, So I never did give up. And I wrote all those books. And in 2017, I wrote the poem that ended up being the text for this book. And this book changed my life. It ended up winning 8 huge awards, literary awards. And I remember there was a time when I didn't have any book deals, didn't have any contracts. Now I got so many deadlines, and it's just an extreme blessing, man. Just an extreme blessing. And you have to keep grinding. You have to keep, I woke up every morning when my feet hit the ground. I said, thank you, God, for this day. I still do that every morning. And I always think about, I need to do something positive for somebody today. And I just think about what is going to happen for me. I used to pray, how come I can't get any book deals? Once I stopped thinking that way and I started thinking about, first of all, just doing the work. If you're a writer, write. If you make music, make music. If you want to be a teacher, do all the research. If you want to be a doctor, whatever you want to do, put the work in, and things will line up for you. Believe me, things will definitely line up for you. It's not going to be easy, but I had a lot of low days, like underneath the valley. But again, I woke up every day thinking that something good was going to happen to me, and I still feel that way.
But Derek, I'm going to press you a little bit because here in San Diego County, we call ourselves and pride ourselves being a champion of equity. Mm-hmm. To many of our students, and myself included, we've lost so many friends and family members to senseless violence, to civil unrest. You dedicated this book. Can you tell me more about why you dedicated the book and what that means?
Well, I wrote I Am Every Good Thing in 2018. That was right in the middle of the popularity of Crown. We were traveling all over the country. And, I've always wanted to make sure that I write books that center Black and brown children. Because growing up, I couldn't go to a library and bookstore, even though I read a lot. I never saw books of children that looked like me. So everything clicked for me. Like after I wrote Crown, it's like I have to make sure that I center Black and brown children in every single book so that we can show the world that we are not a monolith, that we are different types of people. We come from different parts of the world. We come from different family structures. And one of the things that hit me, it was 2 things. One was a ad from the clothing company H&M. They put out an ad in 2018 where they had a little black boy wearing a green hoodie, and it was an international ad. And on the ad, the hoodie said, "The coolest monkey in the jungle." And yeah, and I was like, man, we cannot. First of all, how can a corporation allow that kind of ad to get out? But then I was just thinking, man, I'm raising 4 black boys that are stars in this house, but when they go out that door, there's no telling what kind of treatment they're going to get, you know. So I think a lot of the issues we have are just having a lack of knowledge in regards to history of who we are, who America really is, and where we come from. And we are so separated, you know what I mean? So if you aren't blessed to have black and brown boys and girls in your lives, you may not look at them the way you look at your own family or the way you look at your own neighbors, you know? So I was like, man, I can't believe they put this ad out. And then I was thinking about all the young brothers over the past 15 to 20 years who've been killed via police violence, and the police only get a slap on the wrist or they get, you know, relocated. And the one that sticks with me the most, other than Tamir Rice, you know, because he had a mere seconds. The police showed up and didn't even stop the car, really. Killed this 12-year-old baby. But, you know, Trayvon Martin sticks with me the most. It's like one of the main influences for this book, you know. He came from a 2-parent household. His parents had split up, but he was staying with his father. 17 years old, walked to the store to get snacks, to come back home to watch a basketball game, minding his own business, and didn't make it back home because of an overzealous, neighborhood watchman. And I just think about him on that dark sidewalk and screaming for help. And that will never leave my soul. So I think about, what if it was one of my boys, you know, that are good students, that they come from households where people love, appreciate them, care about them, they have these huge aspirations and hopes and goals, and you have somebody that just snuffs them out just like that. I put too much energy, love, and purpose into my sons, you know, to think about that happening to them. So I said I'm gonna create a book where people understand that we love our brown and black boys the same way that anybody else does, no matter what color you are, no matter what community you come from. I chose Gordon James, who's the illustrator, did a beautiful job. Out of all the images, I wanted to choose this cover because this boy could come from anywhere. You know what I'm saying? He can come from San Diego, he can come from Brooklyn, Oakland, with the oversized jeans and the big size t-shirt, but I guarantee you this boy comes from a family that loves him and has huge goals for him, you know? And so I wanted the world to understand that we love our boys, despite what you may see in pop culture or what you may believe in regards to these false stereotypes, that we love our sons and nephews and cousins and grandsons. And I wrote a poem about it and it ended up inside this beautiful book, man.
Thank you for sharing, because we have some beautiful and talented young men and women. And oftentimes, and I get asked to speak or join meetings where we talk about history. It tells a story. And so when I think about the word mystery, my story, you put those words together, it's a mystery. And too often, folks like myself, who is an educator, and been through many years of education, have never seen my story in public education. And the same goes true for many of our students. And so many of them feel like they've been pushed out and shamed out by folks that have the same titles as me or a teacher. But I'm very, very honored to have some talented teachers who want to know and want every kid to know about her story and his story. And I hope that our powerful young women and young men are able to get their story and tell it to someone. But when you think about our history, too often it starts with a negative thing, and it kind of turns you off. I don't want to hear about slavery time. There's some great, great people in our lives, in our history, that have great contributions to our world. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we always talk about that.
Like the brown perspective.
Yeah, well, we talk about that every February, how if you are of a certain age in education in school during Black History Month, even in, predominantly Black schools, the primary things that we learned about is that we came from slavery. You learn a little bit about Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and maybe Frederick Douglass or somebody sprinkled in here and there. And so you don't understand the enormous contributions that Black people have had on this country and on this planet. I was just talking to my sons about a term that we have to flush out of our lexicon, which is minority. That's a term that I hate to hear, and I don't want my sons or any young person of color to, refer to them that way. Black and brown people are the most populous people on this planet. And we had to start thinking about ourselves globally, even from a historical standpoint. Before the transatlantic slave trade, and you talking about going back thousands of years, like the first people that create, science, medicine, and universities. We have to teach our children about that history, but even the history when we landed on this soil in 1619. You think about us from 1619 to 2021 and what we have meant to this country, and how America wouldn't even be a economic powerhouse if it wasn't for slavery. Think about that. I was talking to some young people the other day, and they didn't know how long African Americans were enslaved. Over 250 years. So over 250 years, we were viewed as nothing more than cattle, or property. And then another close to 100 years after that, we went through, Jim Crow and this racial terrorism. I was talking earlier about, the migration of Black people. We went to the West, obviously, which is why a lot of us are in, California. The migration, we were running from terror. We were running from groups like the Ku Klux Klan. But you think about all the inventions that Black people have made, all the people that have come before us to really fight for every single basic human right that we have in this country. Nobody gave us anything. We had to march in order to be in the same spaces as white Americans. We had to fight to have, the opportunity to vote, just to be married. I'm talking about basic human rights. And there was always somebody that risked their lives. And I always try to pay homage to people that came before us, because we wouldn't be on this Zoom call right now if it wasn't for so many people that came before us. And I appreciate our ancestors so much,
It's really interesting because, again, when you think about history and you really study the body of people and the body of their work, we have so much in common, but too often we look at what we have different. Mm-hmm. And I like to think about our students today, particularly our African American and our Latinx students, about how they look at history today based on what is happening today. And it depends on who write that story. So we want to garner some information to be able to tell their own narrative, because if we wait and listen to someone else tell the narrative, it may be like we've heard in the past. So what advice would you give to our students about putting their thoughts to pen and paper, and how would we look at today 10 years and 15 years from now?
Oh, man, I did a program at the University of Illinois at Chicago, maybe 15 years ago. There's a professor named Dr. Alfred Tatum, and he took every summer he would take maybe 30 Black boys from the South Side of Chicago, and for maybe a whole month they would write poems and short stories and comic books and work on novels. And one of the phrases that stuck with me that came from Dr. Tatum is, "I want you guys to be unapologetically Black." And to me, that meant, and he gave them permission to tell their stories. Like, you don't have to speak a certain way. I hear a lot of kids talk about their lexicon or their diction. I don't know how to use these big words. You use your own language. There is a lot of brilliance in a lot of dark places in this country. And you tell your own story. You don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to write a certain way. You don't have to talk a certain way. You must be informed. So you try to seek out as much information as you possibly can, but tell your own story and be proud of where you come from. And have these huge aspirations of where you want to be, but never be ashamed of where you come from or to share your story with other people, you know. And also, like 10, 15 years from now, listen, you have to look at yourself as not just a speck of dust, you know, in time. Where you are right there, where everyone is sitting right now, who you are right now is important to time and it's important to history. Like, you are not just here taking up space and just taking up oxygen. You have to see yourself as somebody that has the ability and has the resources, just who you are, to make a difference in your immediate environment. You have to start seeing yourself that way. We are not just here taking up space. You are extremely important to the people in your lives and the people that are around you. And by telling your own story, you don't know how many people you can influence, how many people you can motivate, because that's all most of us need sometimes, man, is to have somebody pat us on the shoulder or you know, to tell us, you know, good job. I appreciate you. I love you. You know, you're going to go far. You know, so let's not move forward in thinking that we can't change the way, you know, man, there's so many people that changed this country in the past 6 months. You know, Georgia, for instance, you know, Georgia have been a red state for eons. They just elected their first black senator. So you can't tell me that things can't change. You know, thank God for black women. I love black women to death, man. Stacey Abrams in Georgia, she got up and mobilized that state, and she was able to turn it into a blue state, and things have changed because she believed in herself. And I'm sure she had a whole circle of people that have always believed in her. So let's try to be an influence, and let's try to look at ourselves as being agents of change. That's the term I use around the house all the time. Be a difference maker. All of us can be a difference maker. All of us.
So we have a couple of questions that have come in. One is what from an anonymous attendee. What are some of your favorite children's books that are not your own? Do you have any top recommendations or any other children's books that inspired your own writing?
Contemporary artists and writers that I like right now. I like a gentleman named Jason Reynolds. He penned a novel in verse called Long Way Down, which is gonna be a classic. Another one of my favorite writers is a young lady named Renee Watson. She currently resides in Harlem, but she's from Portland, Oregon. She writes in verse as well. I just love her voice. I love her talent. So yeah, check out her books. Renee Watson. Who else? Like Sharon, classics from Sharon Flake, Nikki Grimes. You know, one of my favorite writers. They've been writing for 20, 30 years now. And I think both of them just released new novels. Vanessa Brantley Newton, which is a friend of mine. She has a ton of beautifully illustrated books. And I like a lot of books that are, you know, novel in verse. Elizabeth Azevedo, with The Fire on High, which is her last book, I think. Clap When You Land, which is the book she came out with last year. She's one of my favorite writers. And a young lady named Jasmine Ward. She's from Mississippi. Check out her work. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. We also have a question from one of our teachers, and our Lindsay students are represented in the House and have mentioned that they don't learn Black history in February. We learn it 365 days a year.
That's right.
And they are all eager to start getting their own children to begin writing books as young people, starting off even as a small child. So one of our teachers from there, as I mentioned, Andy, she wanted to know if you have any plans to write a historical children's book in the future, and if so, what time period would you pick?
I'm working on 2 books right now. One is nonfiction, and it deals with history, but it's not a historical fiction piece. This book is entitled "Do It for the People: Black Athletes, Activism, and it's where I profile 15 times in American history that Black athletes have risked it all to really protest the mistreatment of Black and brown people. And I'm kind of uncovering a lot of untruths. The first chapter, in the book is about the Star Spangled Banner, and is about the national anthem and why, as of late, you see the NFL players, NBA players kneeling during the national anthem. And we need to really talk about this song. It's written by a man that was a known racist, Francis Scott Key. He was a lawyer, and most of the people that he tried to sue or tried to take down were all, abolitionists. And he actually owned 7 to 8 slaves. And the third stanza in that song is actually about the ex-enslaved who actually ran away to join the British Army so they can fight for their freedom. So, as a Black man in America, there's no way I'm going to stand for that song during a sporting event or, any kind of event, publicly. And again, going back to what I was saying before, we have to inform ourselves and not just feel comfortable with information that we think we already know. We have to seek out information that challenges the things that we already know, so that's one book. The other one is kind of a historical piece. I wrote it, the characters are based in the 80s, and it's based in Mississippi, and it's called The Incredibly Human Henson Blaze. And if you've read Maniac Magee, this was a huge inspiration for me, to work on this book. So, I'm starting to do more, nonfiction type books, just to, disseminate some real information. Make sure that we have to be honest about our history. That's the only way things are going to get better.
Well, and I think that really speaks to our school community. A book that we've read a number of years back, and I know people have continued to reference, is Lies My Teacher Told Me, and how the history in the books that were provided is not the full history, is not necessarily the accurate reflection of the time. So appreciate you putting things in that perspective. And we do have another question from an anonymous attendee who was speaking about how she and others, while they were at juvenile hall, were writing a part of their life stories. And so her question is, how do you actually go about publishing a book? What's that process?
Well, there are 2 ways. There are 2 ways to get published. You can self-publish, which means you can, this industry has come in a mighty long way. Like, you used to just go to a local printing company after you've had the book edited, whether it's poems or an actual novel, and go to a local printer company, and they will print it out for you. And those are called chapbooks, and then you sell them, within your, community. But now, Amazon has a service. You can do a lot of this stuff online. A huge part of selling books, though, if you decide to self-publish, is the marketing. Like, the marketing is a extreme challenge. You have to really go out and try to find your target audience, and you have to find out where you want to get your books sold and where would you like your books to be placed. So there's a lot of labor involved in self-publishing, but it depends on how far you want your career to go. Do you want to just see your book in print and share it with family and friends, or would you like to sell it within your city, or would you like to become a person where your books are sold all over the planet? If you want to go the traditional route, you have to first land a literary agent. which is a person that, not for the most part, all of them don't have legal backgrounds, but they deal with your contracts, and they are they're your liaison between you and the publishing companies. And there's various sizes of publishing companies. You got the big, there's 5 big publishing companies that do it all. Simon & Schuster, Penguin, Random House, you got Scholastic, and then there's a lot of mid-tier companies. And your edit and your agent's job is to take your manuscript or take your finished book and shop it and try to land a book deal. Hopefully a big 5, 6, 7-figure book deal, So those are your 2 routes. You can try to find a self-publishing service online. You just Google it. Look for just put in self-publishing companies. And if you have aspirations on being a big-time author, I say you go to the website of your favorite writer or your favorite published author, and on their contact page, they, most of them have, the name of their agent and how to get in contact with their agent. And for the most part, the agent will ask you for like the first 50 pages of your work, or they will tell you what they will expect from you. And you either have to send it via mail or you can send it via email. And that's the best way to land a literary agent. And they will do the work for you. I've been with my agent for 15 years now. And she always takes care of me.
Another question is about selecting an illustrator, and I know you have a great relationship with Gordon James. So could you talk a little bit about how did you work that out? How did you come together on that?
Well, it's funny, with the large publishing houses, you really don't have a say so unless you're an author with a name. If you're somebody that sells a lot of books, you can have some say so about who you would like to illustrate. And now, thankfully, I'm so grateful. I'm at the stage now where I know a lot of illustrators, and I can suggest who I would like to work with. But if you're a new writer coming into the industry and you've landed a publishing deal, first of all, congratulations. That is awesome. But for the most part, they will assign an illustrator to you. Gordon and I got together because we've been friends for 18 years. He was actually the first person I met when I got hired in '99 at Hallmark Cards. He was an illustrator there. And we got together because, when The Crown was published, I don't even think my agent shopped it to a large publishing house. We landed a deal with a small house outside of Chicago. It's called Agate Publishing, and they're most famous for doing cookbooks and award-winning cookbooks and biographies. And they had never done a children's book before. But a friend of mine, Denise Milner, who actually wrote those Steve Harvey books, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, she landed a imprint deal with that company, which means that she was able to publish 4 books out of the year, and she wanted to focus, primarily on publishing children's books that feature Black children. And I was the first person she called. She asked if I knew any illustrators. I asked about 5 or 6 of my illustrator friends. They all said no because they were just offering $5,000. And most children's book illustrators, the floor is like maybe $25,000, $30,000. And I just called Gordon at the right time. I was down on my luck. He needed the money. So he said, yeah. And I hyped him up. I said, man, this book's going to sell millions of copies. We're going to get money on the back end. And he agreed to do it. But, like I said, for the most part, the publisher chooses the illustrator.
Okay, we also have a question about, do you have any wise words to give a person that to inspire their inner writer, to motivate them, and what would you suggest that they do in their writing process?
Say, obviously, read as much as you can. You should really spend more time reading before you start writing. Like you know your own voice. You know your interests. What you would like to write about. But You know, one of the most important things that I learned early on from a lot of the veteran writers when I was at Hallmark is to continue to work on, you know, developing your voice. Like if somebody had a empty book without a title or even your name on it, when they open it up and read it, they would know that it's you because of the language that you use. And so it's so important to continue to work on your voice. And you only can do that by reading and checking out as many authors, poets, essayists. You read every single thing that you get your hands on and pull from every single person that you like, even your favorite hip hop artists, you know. I'm a huge hip hop and jazz fan. And I really try to infuse a lot of music into my work, you know, and I think that's helped me to, you know, develop my voice. And then when you sit down, decide to start writing, just write. Don't stop. Don't stop to read what you've read or what you've written. Don't stop to fix things and change things. Sometimes I go 3 or 4 days, but just write. I mean, I just write. I don't even read it. And then when I look at it, and then you make changes. But you want to get everything out. You want to get every single word out.
And from another one of our students, Ocean, do your kids love reading like you do?
No. my oldest boy is let's see, a few more minutes. My oldest boy used to love reading. He's 21 now, and he really loved reading until he discovered girls, and he got into maybe the late years in high school or got into college, and he doesn't read anymore. He's an engineering student, so you know most of his reading is text and does calculus and whatnot. But you know my other boys don't really enjoy reading, but I still give them books to read, and then we still designate time for them to sit down and read. It's nothing but 20 to 30 minutes a day. Make sure you put some type of information in your head, you know.
All right. Thank you so much. And Tracy, I'm going to let you wrap it up now.
Eric, hopefully I don't have another technical issue, but I just want to thank you on behalf of our students and our staff and our general, but also just America and the world, because there are many, many young Derrick Barnes out there who we need to mentor and fertilize and water to have them blossom like you are. I'm so glad you were able to share your experience with us today. I also want to thank our students and staff for being on this Zoom. Again, oftentimes we don't have a chance to engage in authors like yourself and to see what motivated you. And one of the questions, I don't know if you were to ask already, answered already, was about negative parts of being an author. I particularly wanted to ask a question about how come you didn't choose the rapping route? Oftentimes, folks like ourselves, we want to be rappers, but you chose to be an author, and I thank you for that. But any last words of encouragement, wisdom that you can share with the audience about where you're going for the future?
Yeah, I was talking about my love for Langston Hughes. When I was in the 5th grade, one of the earliest pictures I remember seeing of him was a black and white picture of him walking the streets of Harlem. And he was mobbed by hundreds of children. They all wanted his autograph. And that's always stuck with me. You know, we are magnificent in every single thing that we do. I don't care if it's hip hop or literature or macrame, you know, because of my life experience in this country, man. So I fell in love with words, and I know how powerful they are and how they can move the way people feel about themselves and the way they view other people. So I've always viewed words like a painter views colors. You know, I see myself that way. And man, I just encourage you guys to read as much as you can and to tell your own story, man. The world needs you, and the world needs your voice, and the world needs your ideas, and the world needs your stories, you know. So continue to work on your voice.
Again, Derek, thank you so much. Also want to thank Lindsay Sullivan and Stephanie and the team for making this happen. And I look forward to maybe opportunities in the future. If you ever come, go look us up. We'd love to be able to host you and take you around and meet some of the students that were on the Zoom and books that they have written, because they're going to be writing some books.
Yeah. Well, thank you. As soon as the world opens back up, man, I'm going to be everywhere. So San Diego is going to be one of my first stops.
Appreciate it and thank you so much.
Right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Derek. It's such a pleasure to have you today, and just wonderful to see you be able to share your story with our students. And thank you. It was wonderful to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for having me. Y'all take care.
Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.